So today we're going to talk about the missing tooth clause, but also some other things that are similar to but not identical to the missing tooth clause. So what is the missing tooth clause? Historically, this was used by insurance companies to prevent a patient from going out and buying insurance right after they had a tooth extracted so they could get the insurance to pay for the bridge or whatever the prosthetic replacement is. The question that the office often would ask was, when was the tooth extracted? And if the tooth was not extracted when the patient had the existing dental plan coverage, then typically it was going to be denied. So the real question, though, is the insurance going to pay for my fixed bridge, or a partial, or a crown, or implants? We'll come back and talk about implants as a special case in a minute. And this even applies to fillings. The first thing to think about, besides the missing tooth itself, is what's called LEAT, the least expensive acceptable treatment. And we've seen this for years with amalgams, where the insurance would typically give you an amalgam allowance for a composite restoration. This is sort of disappearing because now amalgams may become illegal. And so the insurances are backing off on this. However, they're not going to pay for an inlay. That's not the least acceptable treatment. So they may pay for a composite, but not an inlay. They also may pay for a partial rather than a fixed bridge. So if you have teeth missing on both sides of the arch, or more than one or two missing teeth total in the arch, they may allow for a partial. They will give you that allowance towards the cost of the fixed bridge, but they're not going to pay for the fixed bridge or the implant. Also, offices often miss this. Congenitally missing teeth are usually not covered, almost never covered by dental insurance. They may be covered by medical insurance, but that's sort of a different topic. We want to look at the prior replacement clause, or the replacement period. And this typically in the past was only 5 years, and this applied to crowns, partials, dentures, and there's a separate one for fillings, but there often is a replacement period for fillings also. What's happened over the last few years is the replacement period has increased from 5 years, it used to be the standard, up to, we've seen 12 years. So in other words, if that crown that you're replacing, or that denture, or that partial is less than 12 years old, it's not going to be covered by the insurance. Now, this applies to flippers, which is kind of interesting, because flippers are meant to be interim restorations. That's part of their official definition. But if you extract a tooth, in this case an anterior tooth, and make a flipper as a temporary replacement for that extraction while you're waiting to do a fixed bridge or an implant or whatever, that's all they're going to pay for. They consider this to fall under that same replacement period. So let's say they've got a 12-year replacement period. You made them a flipper to last them a few months. They're not going to give you any benefits for the implant or the partial or whatever that you're going to subsequently replace. So, and offices miss this all the time. Another consideration is the waiting period, and this is becoming much more common now. So many carriers now will say, we're not going to allow for any extensive dental treatment, meaning crown, bridges, implants, and so forth, for, say, 12 months. All we're going to do is pay for preventative in the first 12 months. You need to know about this, and you need to inform the patient about this. So this is a complicated series of questions here. The prior extractions, the LEAT rule, the congenitally missing teeth, the replacement period, and the waiting period all come into the equation of whether or not the insurance is going to pay for my fixed bridge or my partial or my implant. All the things we've just been talking about are current right now. These are in effect. This is a proposal, which is very, very interesting. Now, this was a posting on Dental Town. I don't have the original source on this, but it looks like it did come from Delta. And what they're saying is, or at least one Delta plan, what they're saying is, we're not going to pay for any replacement after 12 months since the tooth was extracted. Now think about that for just a minute. So before, the contract usually would say that they would pay for the extraction while the patient had that existing insurance. But now they're going to say, no, you only got 12 months to replace this missing tooth. And that really throws a real wrinkle in things. What if you're going to do an implant? So that's going to be several different phases in here, and it quite possibly could run longer than 12 months. That means it's all going to be denied because you didn't get that crown done on that implant within 1 year of when you extracted that tooth. There's lots of reasons besides implants where treatment to replace a tooth may extend over 12 months. Finances are a big one. Things change. Okay, this is something you really need to be aware of if it goes into effect. And if it's like all the other things that we talked about, once this becomes established with one carrier, it's going to metastasize to all the other ones. So now we need to add this as a possible consideration, a future consideration to all the things the insurance company is going to look at and that we need to understand when dealing with the insurance company. But wait, there's more. Now we have to deal with the individual insurance plan and how they're going to apply benefits. So many offices have lots of different fee schedules, and typically they're out of date. There's different types of fee schedules, and you need to understand that. There's different types of plans. There's category percentage and PPO percentage and so forth, capitations, Medicaid, flat pay. So lots of different kinds of plans, and we haven't even gotten into the benefits yet. So how much do they pay for fillings? How much do they pay for crowns? So this is a complicated mess. It's not impossible, but it is difficult. So what are you going to do? So most offices have kind of figured this out on their own. They're going to send a pre-estimate. Now, for 40 years, I've said don't send pre-estimates. Why have I said that? Because it's taken so long to get a pre-estimate back from the insurance. Patient doesn't want a bridge anymore. They went and bought a boat in the meantime. I would guess that most offices lose about 50% of their possible production when they send pre-estimates the old way. This is something that's changed and has made my thinking change. So what's the big change? The big change are integrated ERAs. What are ERAs? Electronic remittance advice. But the underlying word here is integrated. An integrated ERA will typically come back to the office within 1 to 2 days, not the 6 weeks that it used to take a paper claim and a paper response. So integrated ERAs, and we'll talk about that in just a second, are the answer here. And that's why I changed my mind. The other reason is that you don't have to deal with all this complexity. Let the insurance company do the work now. Okay, and this is a really big benefit. But because we get the pre-estimates back so fast, and because the complexity of dealing with the insurance companies, with all these different things we've talked about, has just increased dramatically, now sending a pre-estimate and getting it back as an integrated ERA makes perfect sense to me, and is frankly, I think, is the only way to do things. But, and there's always a but, you can't just click a button and send a pre-estimate and expect it to get it back in 1 to 2 days from the insurance companies. Sending a good pre-estimate is a bit of an art form. You have to understand all the things that we've been talking about so that you include the appropriate information on the submission. Don't just click the button. It's just going to waste time. And now you're back to my other reason. The patient's going to lose interest and go buy a boat. So we talked about integrated ERAs, not just old plain ERAs. And here's 2 sources. One of them is a video that we did about pre-estimates, and the second one is the Open Dental webinar on ERAs. There talk most about the payments, which you also get much more quickly and much more easily. I'm talking about doing the pre-estimates. So I will create a page on our website that has this information. So if you go to todaysdentalconsulting.com/missing teeth, no spaces, then you can download these things directly. So did we accomplish our objectives? What is the missing tooth clause? What are the other things involved? How is it changing? And what are you going to do in your office to deal with this? If this video was helpful to you, be sure and like and subscribe. Running a modern dental practice is complicated. There's lots of different things involved here. That's why we only work with offices that are switching to or using open dental software. However, we have no affiliation with Open Dental except as a user, and we receive nothing from any vendors, including Open Dental. If we recommend something, it's because we see it's worked for our clients. So if you'd like some help in making your office easier to run, more profitable, and deliver better patient care, give us a call. That's what we do. You can go to our website, todaysdentalconsulting.com, and just click on that schedule a free consultation so we can chat with you. You can also use the QR code. And just as another little enticement, if you do this, we can create this report for you in just a few minutes during the meeting, which we refer to as the snapshot, that just shows your trends over the last 6 months, what a lot of people find to be very useful. Anyway, you don't have anything to lose, free consultation, just click on that button on our website.